Offensive Toxapex is now the most common moveset for the former King of Stall. In the 4 Smogon Premier League final games, out of 8 teams, there were 4 Toxapexes and all 4 of them were Modest Assault Vest. The idea picked up steam in early March, and in the month of March, Modest Assault Vest Toxapex made up 20% of all Toxapexes on the ladder. Ladder metagame trends generally lag tournament play and expected to be even more common in the month of April. But why? Why is Offensive Assault Vest Toxapex becoming good? Toxapex has a base 53 special attack. Why are people using a modest EV spread for it? Why is a Pokemon notorious for its defense going offensive? And is it a fad, or is Offensive Toxapex here to stay? But first, check out my second channel. On my second channel, you get some more behind the scenes action and you actually see me play the game. We're trying to get that channel to 50k subscribers. So if you like this channel's content, you'll have a good time with my other stuff too. Link is in the description, but now back to the video. Necessity breeds invention, and to understand why Assault Vest Offensive Toxapex became popular, you have to understand the flaws of Toxapex itself. Toxapex has always been an elite defensive Pokemon with Regenerator, an amazing defensive typing, and incredible defensive stats. It also had moves like Recover, Toxic, and Haze. However, entering Generation 9, it lost the moves Scald and Knockoff, and Recover PP was nerfed to 8. This was big as these 2 moves were key and prevented Toxapex from becoming fodder. Physical attackers had to be scared of getting Scald burned, and every Pokemon had to be scared of Knockoff. Toxapex initially fell out of favor because people felt that it wasn't that good anymore. But over time, after a few more bans, people started using Toxapex again. Even though it didn't have Scald or Knockoff anymore, people were using it purely on its defensive merits. It still had moves like Toxic and Toxic Spikes, and instead used Infestation or Chilling Water for damage. Infestation in particular was a nice adjustment to rack up residual damage. It still had the walling capabilities it always had, but it was much more passive now. That cost was worth it though, and people continued to use the nerfed Toxapex and its usage rate rose again. But those inherent flaws didn't go away. Garganacl with Salt Cure is also a popular Pokemon, and people started using ideas like Substitute more often. Toxapex and Salt Cure Garganacl both could become liabilities versus substitute Pokemon like Dragapult or Hydreigon. The metagame as a whole started becoming more unfavorable for Toxapex. If the cost of defensive Toxapex outweighs its benefits, then you have to do something different. And that's how offensive AV Toxapex was born. AV Toxapex is in part a response to the metagame and also part innovation, and people looking at the innovation and realizing it's actually good. It really picked up in usage when a user named Crying used it in Smogon Premier League to get 2 knockouts in 2 turns. Adding Assault Vest to a Regenerator Pokemon is probably the most standard idea you can think of. It was just never done for Toxapex because it's a Toxapex. Tanking a hit, firing off an attack, and then switching it out to heal is the most standard Assault Vest strategy, and it's easy to execute too. Regen Vest Tornadus T, Mienshao, Slowking Galar, etc. It's very standard stuff, and the idea can be dated back to over a decade ago. Toxapex's low special attack made it never really a serious idea. However, with the proper investment, base 53 is enough to break Substitute from a lot of Pokemon. AV Offensive lets you get enough power to do that while also maintaining the bulk to take on Pokemon that you actually want to take on. If you had gone offensive without Assault Vest, those EVs would have had to come from somewhere and you would have had to compromise on your special bulk. Now you can go offensive enough while also dealing with a gamut of special attackers like Walking Wake. Walking Wake in particular is a top Pokemon, and it's a huge reason why Toxapex needs to be specially defensive in some way. Assault Vest Offensive is an easy way to hit 2 birds with 1 stone. There are obvious compromises with Assault Vest. For one, you don't have Recover anymore, but that can be solved by relying on Regenerator more often. You would just have to play it differently. You also don't have Haze either, but Scarlet and Violet added 3 new unaware Pokemon to handle setup sweepers, so you don't need Toxapex to do that anymore. The main trade-off is the loss of Toxic and Toxic Spikes. The idea is that these trade-offs are worth it, and Toxapex can still be reliable, coming in and out and using its typing, stats, and Assault Vest. Infestation is a very nice move to have, and Water, Poison, and Ice Beam provide a deceptively large amount of coverage. It can genuinely be annoying to switch into. Infestation chip damage and the Sludge Bomb poison threat can stack up quickly. Infestation and Poison alone do 25% of damage per turn, and it can do 20 to 30% to you and just switch out to remove whatever damage you did to it. Toxapex is never going to come close to becoming a pure offensive threat, but if it can output more net damage than it takes because of Regenerator, that's a job well done, especially if it can do it while taking on the tier's top attackers, at least temporarily. The bottom line is that it's a different set of trade-offs compared to its defensive movesets, but it's just as valid as a Pokemon. The question, however, is it just a fad, or is it something bigger and more long-term? The truth is that Pokemon Home will shake up everything, so you can't really make an accurate prediction. But for the near future, it does look like offensive Toxapex is the real deal. The criticisms of Toxapex are fundamentally true, and offensive AV does mitigate that. Walking Wake is also likely going to continue to be a top threat, and AV Toxapex is a good counter. If things stay the same, then maybe AV Toxapex usage increases, but if defensive Toxapex ends up in favor again, then maybe it'll decrease and this will all be a dream. What do you think? Let me know down in the comment section below.